Okay, people. This is tremendously dangerous what I'm doing right now. This is proof of life of Pudge. Now, I have to hold her from the back just so that you could see. Here, you want to say hi? She doesn't want to say hi. It's extremely dangerous because the dog is mildly incontinent because she's paralyzed in the hind section. And she found me in the basement, and I don't want her to dirty up someone else's property. So I'm going to hold her. Let's say hi to the world here. You want to say hi to the world? Yeah, you're a good dog. Okay, now you get out of here. Oh. Okay, get out. All right, and now we are left with the other dog, who I know is that's a loaf of bread. My goodness, she weighs 40. She's lost a little bit of weight, but yeah, she's a big loaf of bread. Winston. And oh, here's the other loaf of bread, slightly lighter, but the joke is between the two dogs, we have one, one complete dog. Winston is blind and Pudge is paralyzed in the back legs. Your breath smells. I've insulted him. Okay, so it's going to be a good one tonight. We've got it's a Canadian episode, a follow-up on the Tamara Litch bail hearing, the re-sentencing or the rehearing on the bail judgment, which we covered yesterday. And my goodness, if anybody watched yesterday, when the judge said somebody's live streaming this, it's totally unacceptable and we have to suspend for recess, I'm so neurotic that even though I specified in the beginning why I was doing what I was doing, the way I was doing it to be totally compliant, there's that moment where you think like, my goodness, I've just interrupted an actual court proceeding. It wasn't me, by the way, just so everybody knows, because what I was doing was, in fact, totally compliant, having gone over the restrictions. And the restrictions are, no reproducing the audio, no reproducing the video, no reproducing still shots. And I was, like I made a joke, live tweeting with my mouth. But for that moment where I thought, holy crab apples, I didn't even stop to think that other people would actually be live streaming this in its entirety, apparently. But that was a fun thing yesterday, and I think, it's not to be dramatic. This is the future of actual, legal analysis commentary, is meaningful, thorough, and thoughtful. People, I think we've moved past the point where people want headline news, just give it to me in 30 seconds. We've now stretched into this new realm where people want long format and they want to understand. It was a group of YouTubers. I've been told 2 different or 3 different accounts, but one thing is certain. When I was rewatching my stream, I was like, holy crab apples, this is kind of boring. You hear somebody like just staring at a camera and then explaining law stuffs, but it was, I've had people say it was really worthwhile to watch because it makes sense of it. And my goodness, it was a tense court here. I'm gonna have to get that dog out of here. Give me 1 second here. Good day, Viva. Oh, so I also went to the post office today because I got a call from the post office saying, Viva, you better come down here and bring a bag. I don't know when the last time I went was. It wasn't that long ago. And there was a ton of stuff I haven't even gotten through going through it yet. And I wanted to do like one of those Casey Neistat, unboxings. The issue is I'm excessively neurotic. I don't even want to accidentally disclose someone's address or identity that they then, have the social media mob go after them for having written to me in support or whatever. Suffice only to say, above my shoulder here is, his name is Tiger, the Autistic Tiger. Hold on a second. I have to make sure I just didn't screw that up. The Autistic Tiger. I met him. I met the father of the child who this is an animation doll revolving around at the Project Veritas event. And he just sent me the Autistic Tiger doll, which is up in the back. Over there are what are known as my Grand Maillet, the Gavel Awards that I won in university, that were attributed to me in university in first year, second year, and third year law school. What else did I get? I got a shirt that has Sean Connery on it and says, Sean Connery approves of the Freedom Convoy. Love from Scotland. And I'm still going through it. I do get a lot of stuff that I cannot respond to. Questions for legal advice, asking me to look at files. I can't, won't. And you may know, I mean, if you sent me that, you probably know who you are. I can't do it, and do not take offense if I do not and don't respond, because even a response can be deemed as some form of legal advice. Which brings me to the disclaimers. Good day. Oh, good day. Wait, did I say this? My favorite real news. Well, the disclaimers. YouTube, super chats. Thank you all in advance for the super chats, for the support and everything. YouTube takes 30% to super chat. So if you don't like that, consider watching on Rumble. They have these things called Rumble Rants on Rumble, where Rumble takes 20%. So you can feel better there, giving to a company you like, and more goes to the creator. Or you can follow us on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. What else? No legal advice, no medical advice, no undermining the election fortification advice. That's it. So on the menu tonight, two people. One has been making the news because, no good deed goes unpunished, as we say in the industry. The iconic Café, which was one of the few restaurants or one of the few businesses that stayed open during the Ottawa protests, served, I mean, they said they served truckers. They just stayed open for business. When I was there on my first or second, maybe it was a third day documenting, and I met Dr. Francis Christian. We met at the iconic Café because it was one of the only iconic places that was actually open to meet at. And we did the interview outside. Well, apparently they're being evicted. I've got questions. I'm going to give the big caveat to Enrico, the business owner, that he may end up in court proceedings. And so I'm going to ask questions, but I'm going to make sure that he's sensitive to the answers potentially being used against him in a court of law for anybody who might be watching. Any chance of covering Cain Velasquez denied bail in shooting, targeting accused pedophile? Well, I didn't even hear that Cain Velasquez was in jail for that. But now I'm starting to make sense of a tweet that I saw from Michael Malice, which I guess was talking about this. I miss you. Well, Real Bambuka, thank you for the support, and thank you for being here. And we got K9 Viva. Did you see the Ontario Digital ID page? WEF is listed at the bottom. Tagged you on Twitter. I'll go have a look. So that's number two. Or that will be number two on the menu. Iconic Café apparently getting evicted. I've got questions. Number one is live from the shed. They were the booth that was set up at the epicenter of the protest on Wellington, right in front of Parliament. They had a 24-hour live feed. And David is the individual who I met. And he did an interview with Enrico yesterday, as Enrico's packing up his stuff from Iconic Café. And we're going to start with him. So let's see. Digital ID. Viva, please comment. Well, I will comment once I know what's going on and once I've done sufficient research to formulate an opinion. Geez, everyone's on this WEF thing. Confirm the WEF sighting. I think you mean the same thing. Okay, so with that said, new member in the house. Booyah, Joseph, welcome to the club. I've been very bad giving the perks to the members. I hope everyone understands and is sensitive to that. Life is tremendously stressful for everyone. Full stop. So I make no excuses, just to explain. If I'm lacking in the exclusive content from the members, I appreciate all of the support, and I do apologize for that. Okay, well, good. Here we go. They're going to get the questions. So we'll get into it when I talk with Enrico. I did a lot of commercial lease stuff in Quebec, but Quebec is much different than Ontario. And I opposed extrajudicial termination of leases, and I sought to impose extrajudicial termination of leases. So I've been on both ends of this. I go by the justice of the situation, or I went by the justice of the situation, not by only representing landlords or tenants. So I mean, I got my questions. But before we get to Enrico, sorry, I just might have blown out the mic there. Two more members in the house. Booyah. Okay, let's bring in Dave. Dave, may I? Sorry, I should have given you more.
Hey, how's it going?
Good in yourself. Is your last name public knowledge?
Not really at this point, so maybe we'll just keep it that way for a bit. I'm sure they could track me down if they wanted to, but
well, you have a common enough first name that you should be safe. Dave, so for those who are watching who don't know who you are, and you're going to want to give them an abridged elevator pitch, who are you, And how did you end up live from the shed 24/7 at the epicenter of this protest?
Yeah, quite a tale. First off, just to my viewers there, since we're restreaming Viva's feed, if you give super chats and stuff, it's not going to come up on the screens. But thank you so much for contributing. And then I've also pinned a link to Enrico's Give, Send, Go. So just letting you guys know how this is set up. So yeah, how I got into this and ended up being a YouTuber. So it all started, I got off work a bit early on the Thursday before everyone went to Ottawa. And I'd heard about what was happening on the overpasses. So I went out to an overpass, not sure if there'd be just me or there'd be other people. And I pulled up and I got emotional, like right off the bat, when I saw at least 100 to 200 people all lined up at this overpass off the over the 401. The flags, the signs, the horns, and like, man, I was just moved in such a way, and the patriotism in me just got fired up. And so I stood in that overpass at -20. It was a crazy cold day, and I waved a flag, and I said to myself, I got to go to Ottawa. I got to see what's going on. And so we watched the truckers go by, and then when I got home, I texted a friend of mine who's a truck driver, and said, hey man, we got to go to Ottawa. Like, this is crazy. And we reached out to a few other buddies, and we drove to Ottawa that Friday, and ended up right down in the middle of it all. And so just I got bored of waving a flag that weekend, so I started getting to know people. And one of the guys I got to know is I hopped in a truck with Jay, who's the owner of the shed truck. I hopped in his truck to warm up, and we hit it off right away. And I was just so moved by the passion of these drivers and their willingness to come down there and give up their time. At that point, they didn't know how much time they'd be giving up, but they came down there to take a stand for all of us. So I hopped in his truck and got to know him, and started networking. And by the end of the weekend, I told my friends that I'd come down with, I said, I gotta stay here. This is too important. So I contacted my boss. Thankfully, he was willing to give me some time off, and I stayed. And then started helping out with delivering. Well, whatever. I've said this on the air before, so I'm not incriminating myself any more than I already have. But I started delivering fuel, which is the great crime that it became, and bringing food to drivers, and just helping to take care of them. A lot of the drivers, whether your viewers know or not, on Wellington Street were from Southern Ontario, and they didn't really come with much of an organized convoy. They all just came down of their own accord and for their own reasons. And so I spent my time networking with them and connecting with them. And Jay really did a huge role on the street of finding them showers and places to stay. And so I ended up basing out of the back of Jay's truck in the shed. And then down the road, we thought, you know what, we should put up some cameras just for the truckers' safety and security. So it started with one little webcam that I bought, and we threw on the back of the truck. And then I started learning how to live stream because I'd never done that before. We burned through the data pretty quick. So actually, this is a funny story. We put up a sign on the shed. We had this digital sign you might have seen, and we said, Elon Musk, we need Starlink. As kind of a joke. And then someone came to us within the hour or two and said, is it true you need Starlink? And we said, well, yeah, actually, it'd be helpful. And he's like, I'll go get mine. So he drove to Quebec like a couple hours away, picked up his Starlink, drove back. And by that night, we'd rigged up a Starlink dish on top of the shed. So then we were all set to go. So I bought a 360 camera and mounted that up. And then we tried to be 24/7 as best as we could with a generator and satellite internet and such. It proved difficult at times, but that's how we started broadcasting. And then one night, I was bored. I was sleeping in the shed, and I couldn't get to sleep. And this was getting later into the event, and I was wondering if the police were going to raid. So I was kind of watching the cameras and listening to the chatter around the street. And I got bored, so I turned the microphone on. And some of my viewers who've been along the ride from the beginning will remember that night where I popped on in the middle of the night. I was just chatting to people. And then they seemed really interested, and they're asking all these questions because, they hear all these rumors and they want to know what's it actually like for people who are down there. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll do more of this. It's really unnatural. I'm sure when you get started, you found it weird too.
You go through the same growing pains, like data issues, upload connectivity. But back up a little bit. And first of all,
sure.
The Good 10 Go, is it the one started by Teresa Snell?
Yes, Teresa Snell is with our team, and great lady. She does moderation and a ton of other stuff. So that's the official one, yeah.
Okay, awesome. I just shared it in the chat, and I'm going to put it in the pinned link afterwards. I just wanted to make sure it was a legit one.
Yeah.
How old are you? You look extremely young.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm 33. Yeah.
Well, you're not that young. And what do you do? What did you do? If you don't want to say specifically what field?
Yeah, it's fun. I worked in like HVAC. I don't get too specific on it just because I don't own the company. And if it was my company, I'd be happy to say. But out of respect to my boss, I just keep the details a little down low. So what in the trades in HVAC specifically?
Hold on, I want to bring this up. Oh, I here. You look so normal to us when you strangely look into it. That's what I was gonna say. This is like eye contact for everyone out there. If you were to see me in a basement staring at a little Vitad camera on the clamp is a tube of zip ties. So it is a weird thing, but this is the eye to the world. So you were afforded time off. You say I've been engrossed by this convoy. You see it go through, and you're on an overpass, and you say, I'm just going to go and live this experience. I mean, when we all know what happened, we saw it in real time. When on the ground did you notice it getting extremely politicized to the point where, at what point, if ever, did you say, we might be getting in trouble for this?
Yeah. Well, on the ground, they were threatening us from the very beginning. Pretty much by the time Monday rolled around, they were under the impression we were staying for the weekend, which I don't know how that came up because it was very clear. The messaging was, we're not leaving until something changes. And that was the attitude of everyone there. So Monday rolled around and nobody moved. And then they're like, oh, shoot, they meant it. And then pretty much from Monday on, we were getting threats of tickets and fines. And they kept threatening police action. It turned into a bit of the boy who cried wolf, because by the end of it, we just ignored, they kept handing us papers, and it's like, well, I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is legit. And so, yeah, but to answer your question, where it really turned scary was the weekend right before everything went down. Then these buses were coming in, fences were going up, and it was like, okay, I think they might be serious about it this time. So.
And now we all saw, everyone saw it in real time up until it was the Thursday when I was there, and I noticed they were putting up fences, and we're all like, what are they putting up fences for? Everyone in my chat was saying for kettling, this and that. And I was like, oh, maybe they expect a huge crowd this weekend, so they want to make sure people stay off parliamentary property. Ultimately, it wasn't for kettling per se, but it was because they expected a crowd. It was because they were coming in to get rid of everyone. The Friday before the Saturday, when the poo-poo hit the fan, was where I was really shocked and appalled by what I saw. But how did that explain how that went down on the Friday to the Saturday, and what happened at the shed, which was the epicenter where the police really just took over full-fledged?
To put it mildly. So the Friday, they started moving in on the far east side of Wellington Street, down by the Chateau Laurier, and whatever that mall's called down there. So we got word up in the shed, and just so you understand, it was like worlds apart. These different areas of the street and different areas of the city were like their own little communities, but we'd get communication from the other areas of the city. So we'd heard that police had started to move in down there by the chateau, and I had gone there to verify myself and see what was happening. I wasn't mobile with the streaming yet, so I could see that they were definitely serious. But at that point, relatively speaking, they were still being fairly professional, which meant that it was slow moving, because people weren't fighting, but they weren't just giving up either. They were sitting down, or they were holding onto a truck, or they were holding onto each other, as you would do in civil disobedience, a peaceful protest. And so they weren't making it easy for the cops, but they certainly weren't fighting back. And so it was slow moving for the police. And then it was on Friday when that incident with the horses happened, and the dear woman was run over by the horses, and that other individual, who we still can't find, by the way.
The brown jacket and the brown jacket.
No one knows who the brown jacket man is. So if anyone tracks that down, I'm sure we'd all love to know how he's doing. But anyway, the horses came through, and then everything froze after that. I think it freaked out the cops too, understandably. It freaked out everyone. Nothing that violent had happened up until that point. It was like, okay, this is next level. People are getting seriously hurt. This is crazy. And so the line stopped moving pretty much after those horses came through, and everything froze. So we thought, based on how Friday had went, we're going to be okay for the weekend. We'll probably be cleared out, by the end of the weekend. They're going to keep moving their way up the line, but there's more people showing up. And at this point, I was not aware, and most of the people downtown were not aware of the level of defenses that they'd set up outside of Wellington Street, all the barriers, the fences, the roadblocks. People were still sneaking through, but we did kind of wonder, where is everyone? Because I knew the hotels were sold out. I knew there was tens of thousands of people in the city. But in retrospect, I found out why they couldn't get down there. And so there was still several thousand people down there, but not as many as who would have liked to be there with us. So yeah, that was the Friday. And then Friday night, I was up like all night in the shed, basically. I think there's probably some old clips of that, me talking there. And then I thought we were safe because they hadn't moved really from the chateau all of Friday night.
Yeah.
And so I went to a hotel to catch a few hours of sleep. And then I got a call, was it maybe 7 a.m. or something? I slept from like 2 till 7 as how we did it. And that the police were moving again. And so I hauled back down there. And by the time I got down there, they'd already worked their way up like close to where the shed was. And I got the live stream running, and you can look at it on Live from the Shed. I think we called it The Last Stand of the Shed. And you see this whole crowd of police all of a sudden start moving in super aggressively, and the smoke grenades go off. And there's the individual you can see getting kneed repeatedly there on the floor. And it went crazy there. And that was on the Saturday morning.
So the footage that there were two clips that I used in a tweet, one of which was, I think it was Rosemary Barton on CBC saying they're arresting what we're seeing now is people being arrested literally as these cops are kneeing somebody's torso repeatedly. The other one looked like a surveillance. Was that yours, where it was more black and white and bluish, and it was another cop kneeing a protester? Was that from the Live from the Shed?
Yeah, someone took a close up of the individual being, as best we can tell, it was Chaba, the driver that happened to, yeah, he's been kneed like 4 or 5 times by the cops there. Yeah, that was from our clip. So how much copyright do you owe me?
It was fair use and no, I actually only used it on Twitter, so there was fair use and commentary. Yeah. Also newsworthy events.
Just
kidding,
buddy.
No, because it was like there was I put together that montage of Justin Trudeau speaking about Putin being an authoritarian and unlawful illegal acts with those videos overlaid, because this is like one corrupt lying authoritarian complaining about another corrupt lying authoritarian. So how long did the 24/7 live stream from the shed go before they cut it, and when did they cut it?
Yeah, so if you watch it, you'll see they move in, and I'm doing commentary at that point. I mean, you'll listen. I was it was a pretty emotional time. I started just get emotional thinking about it. I started reading. Inside the shed, we had all these cards from the kids, right, that Jay had collected, and different people had posted there, and the whole wall was just covered with these cards from kids. And so as the police are moving in, I just started to pick up these cards and read them, and waiting for the inevitable. Actually, my mother was texting me at that point. I don't think she knew about my live feed yet, and so she was asking when I was coming home, and I'm sitting there like about to be raided by the police, and I said, I'll be back soon. But anyway, I'm reading these cards from the kids and doing commentary, and I heard the cops go on top of the roof. I heard them arresting Peaceman, and I could see it on the cameras. And then I just sat beside my computer, hands at my side, waiting for the inevitable. And then a guy burst through the door. One of those green soldier-looking guys had his rifle pointed at me, and he said, "Get on the ground." And I said, "Yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir." So you can hear the audio of all that as it went down, and then they took me outside and cuffed me, and you can watch me walk away in the plaid jacket. And then the camera ran for maybe another hour or something. I haven't checked exactly. And then something unfortunately glitched. I was having troubles with that camera because it was so cold out and such. It wasn't really built for those kind of conditions. But then the audio keeps running for another couple hours. And you can actually hear the last 30 seconds when police come back into the shed. And one of the guys says, like, "What? They've got some kind of surveillance thing here or something." And then all of a sudden the audio cuts out and they unhook it all. So that was the end of that.
Yeah, look at that. It's this crease right there, the grimace crease. I didn't see that, and now I'm going to go back and look at that. So I mean, I'm going to ask a stupid question. It's a real rifle. It's a real firearm that the cop is pointing at you when he busts down the door.
Well, I didn't give him a chance to test it, so
it was not clearly a tear gun.
It looked like it looked like what I'd seen in Call of Duty. That's my best perception of it. So I wasn't messing around. That's for sure. There was he came in. I mean, maybe it was some kind of rubber bullet gun. I have no idea. I didn't test the matter, but there was a rifle pointed at me. There's other. I mean, I had a journalist bug me about this too. I guess in the U.S., pointing a gun is especially a big deal. And so I have a clip from another streamer that shows them coming into the shed with the gun lifted. So I wasn't imagining things. That was the first thing I saw was the gun, and then yeah, we were all taken out of there.
Did you get formally arrested? Any charges pressed?
It was a very strange process. I was told I was under arrest and I was cuffed. I was never read my rights or anything like that until I was passed from one cop to another cop to another cop. And then finally at this makeshift processing spot at the down near the chateau. And somewhere around there's a picture of me holding a whiteboard with some charges on it. And I smiled for the picture because I was trying to stay. If I didn't smile, I would have cried. So there's somewhere around there's a picture of me with a whiteboard with some charges on it, smiling. And the officer took these photos of us with these whiteboards. But then I was passed to another cop, and then she didn't press charges. So I'm not sure why they had those pictures of the whiteboards.
Well, I can
maybe
actually
just to keep tabs on us within their own department.
No, I can tell you why. I think they're literally taking faces. When I was there documenting, and this was the Saturday when the shit went down. Behind the line of guards with batons in their hands were behind, near the armored vehicle. There was a cop with looked like a cannon. So they even have bad taste when it comes to cameras. I'm joking, people. Just taking pictures of people in the crowd. It's like eyeing somebody. He had a zoom lens, took a picture, and it was like he was doing the most important thing on earth, taking pictures of the people in the protest. And then and then I may have to run upstairs for 1 second, but I think they're taking pictures and taking names now. So what happened? I mean, while you explain this, I'm going to run away for 30 seconds. What ended up happening after you were detained and released for the crowd? I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. So after she told me that she wasn't pressing charges, I was loaded into a prisoner transport van. So I had my little compartment, and I was still cuffed at that point. And I just sat there for an hour or more. And this was odd too, because at this point I hadn't been charged and I was just being detained. And then they transferred me to another transport van. And at that point they took my cuffs off, which was nice of them. And then they drove us half an hour out of the city to some parking lot in, I don't know where it was. I was too kind of shooken up to look on my phone to see where it was, but they dropped us off about half an hour to the city. And we're like, okay, you're free to go at this parking lot. So Thankfully, actually, shout out to the Capital City Biker Church. There was some individuals there from the church that heard people were getting dropped off at this location, and so they told me to jump in their truck. I was really shook at this point, and they drove me to their church, and they had hot food and coffee and just like people to talk to, and I was able to kind of just decompress. There was probably 50 to 100 other people at the church who'd also been arrested or shooken up in some way through that day. So there were some really good people there who helped
it's nuts.
care of us after that whole ordeal.
It was my wife who was locked out, by the way. But no, I had heard that when I interviewed the veteran who was also violently arrested, cuffed, had his hands behind his back for 2 hours, and then whisked off and just dumped somewhere 20 minutes outside of town. It's ridiculous. Now, so no charges that you know of. Account ever frozen?
No, my bank accounts were frozen. I mean, it's certainly nerve-wracking because we've all seen that clip of the police chief. We will hunt you down. We will find you. It's like something out of he'd make a great villain for the Netflix movie when it comes out. But like strange behavior there, and so. Yeah, and I've met other YouTubers. You've probably talked to guys who had police show up at their doors and told them to take down footage, and especially when those emergency orders were up, things were getting weird and scary really fast. Yeah. I think it's calmed down a little bit. I've talked to some lawyers, and they tell me I should be fine at this point, but in theory they can come after you like months later. So we'll see. But
it's January 6th level persecution of these protesters, when the only lick of violence, set aside the inconvenience and the traffic and the businesses being shut down because the government told them to, setting aside all that, not a lick of violence until the cops showed up, and then boy howdy.
Just to the no violence thing, like I was personally overwhelmed with I knew it wasn't going to be a rough crowd, but with so many people, I've been to lots of music festivals and stuff like that, and I expected like a little more trouble because and a bunch of us who were kind of more involved there were watching for that. And what was amazing was not that there was like a handful of like some weird people, but like that there was only a very small little handful, and like overwhelmingly just really decent people watching out for each other, cleaning up garbage, shoveling the streets, trying to support any of the businesses that were open. Like Iconic Café that we're going to hear from, and like just an incredible. I've never experienced such an overwhelming flow of patriotism, love for fellow man and country.
And I'll tell you, like I was there. I was there to document, to compare what was being said on MSM or legacy media compared to what people were saying on site. When I went there, it was literally like the people were going out of their way to ensure and disprove what legacy media was saying. So they said there was racism, anti-Semitism, whatever. The people parked outside the war memorial had 24/7 surveillance of the war memorial. They were shoveling snow, picking up garbage, as if to say, we're making a point and we're going out of our way to do it. And it ended horribly. It was a disgrace. And now they're promising to hunt down these people like they don't do with actual criminals. Okay, Dave, well, first of all, what are you doing now? But before we get to Iconic Café, Enrico, what are you doing now? Like, what does your life look like going forward as of now?
Yeah, every day is different. I had gone home. Well, I went to Jay's, the Shed Dwellers house for a few days, and we just we went to a few different community events and just kind of unwound amongst some of the friends there. This was after we'd been in Ottawa for an extra week. We got the trucks back, which is a whole nother ordeal. You can see video on Live from the Shed of when we're getting the trucks back, and there's snow inside, and there's damage to the trucks. But anyway, we finally got the trucks back, and then we went to Jay's and kind of unwound there for a little bit. But then I went home for a few days, saw my parents briefly, and then some friends, and then I headed back up here. And then I was only going to come for the weekend to take part in that march on the weekend. And then I heard about what was happening to Enrico, and I said, "Oh, I gotta help this guy." And we try to watch out for each other, and he was so good to so many people. And So trying to use my platform to help him, and so got roped into that and helping take care of him. And then I'm hoping to head out tomorrow if but then we're still trying to get our generators back and a bunch of stuff from the street. So I'm trying to track down what happened to those. So if I can't figure out what happened to those, maybe I'll be here a little longer. But yeah, every day is a little different. But the one thing we can say too, we've been planning for kind of what's coming next. And so if you guys want to keep an eye out on Live from the Shed, we are making a plan for an Ontario-wide tour. Maybe it could evolve into a Canada-wide tour, but our goal is Ontario right now. We're going to get the Shed and Trainhorn Mike and Saba and Ben from the crane truck, and we're going to get a bunch of the frontline boys together and do a little tour around Ontario, so you guys can meet them and we can just get together, throw up the bouncy castles, and have a good time. So that's one thing that we're planning with our kind of Shed crew. But as your viewers know, there's lots of other stuff happening around too. So just trying to keep the movement alive.
All right, awesome. Now say it loud and clear, and I'll put it in the pinned comment once we're done, or once this process is on YouTube. Where can people find you? What are your social media handles?
Sure. It's Live from the Shed. And that's the YouTube, and Facebook is Live from the Shed. Instagram is live.fromtheshed. Actually, I think Facebook and Instagram are live.fromtheshed. We're on TikTok. I don't do a lot on TikTok, but the most of our content will be on the YouTube, and then Facebook and Instagram live.fromtheshed as well. And a quick shout out to there is also the owner of the Shed truck, my dear friend Jay. I wanted to focus on Enrico tonight with this episode, but we have set up a Give, Send, Go for Jay as well, as he's needed to hire a lawyer, and he faced 4 criminal charges after peacefully surrendering from his truck. And so there's a Give, Send, Go for him as well that you can find on our Facebook and Instagram, live.fromtheshed. And I think I posted a link in my YouTube community channel as well at Live from the Shed. So,
and we're going to get you up on Rumble after this as well. So I'll send you a link for that. So that
awesome.
You can diversify.
You'll have to teach us how to do Rumble. I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Any question you have my number, so you'll let me know.
I appreciate it.
And I'll put up all the links in the pin comment. So the pin comment will be all relevant links. Dave, so best of luck, Godspeed, and thank you for what you're doing, because it's one thing to have your own crises and all of this, but it's another thing to get out there and try to help iconic Café, whose story we're going to hear now, Jay as well. So message me those links and I'll put them in the pinned comment so everybody can find them and find you. Thank you. I'll pull your screen, but if you stick around once, if you're around at the end, I'll bring you back in. But now I think we'll get into Enrico's story, because this is going to be I'll be able to pull out my legal knowledge on this one. So
yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming. Okay, now people, before I bring Enrico in, I'm going to see where I've gotten to in terms of the chat. The bouncy cancel is now being referred to as an okay. I thought you were going to say it's being now referred to as being an inflatable training ground. Okay, so now we're going to move on to, I'm going to see if Dave is still around at the end. We'll bring all 3 back for a powwow. But let's bring in Enrico so that we can hear this story, because thus far all I've been seeing is social media posts and Dave's interview of Enrico yesterday, which you can see on Live from the Shed on YouTube, and we're going to get him on Rumble after this. Enrico, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Now,
nice meeting you.
To satisfy my neuroses, can you tilt your camera just a little bit down?
There we go.
There you go. Because if I bring up a chat, I don't want it to cover the better part of your face. That's much better. And I'll go like this. Enrico, okay, you're in the news these days. I want to start with a little history on you, because so people can appreciate, how you got to be where you are. First things first, always the elevator pitch for those who may not know who you are. Who are you, and what's going on in your life right now?
Oh, I'm Enrico, the owner of the iconic Café, not the building, not the space I lease, but the company. I was because they evicted me. Located downtown Ottawa on Slater Street, where it was pretty close to the epicenter where Dave was, just 2 streets north of that. Yeah, what can I say? There was a lot of people that they were freezing the first weekend. There was a lot of people that had to go to the washroom.
Hold on a second, Enrico. I'm going to bring up your mic. People are saying that they can't hear you. Let me just adjust your volume if I can. Okay, I'll bring it up to 130 people. If that's too loud, let me know. But you know what, Enrico, before we even get there, I have a good ear. I'm detecting something of an accent. Where are you from originally?
Oh, from the Italian part of Switzerland.
And born and raised there. When did you leave? Or when did you come to Canada?
So in the Italian part, I stayed until I was 13. And then we went to live in Davos from that point on.
And Davos. Okay, so now Davos is the Davos where they have that fancy meeting.
Well, Hitler had one there too. He actually has a house too there.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not. I think I may or may not have known that. But so you go from the Italian Swiss to Davos. Can I ask why? Were your parents diplomats or were they in the military or something?
No. My father was a baker, and he was looking for a better paying job, and they hired him in this co-op bakery that was making the bread for all the hotels and restaurants, and for this what do you call it, a winter resort. So there was a lot of bread requests, so they needed good bakers, and apparently my father was one of them.
Okay, so you go Italy, or the Italian part of Switzerland. And what was it called again, the town or the city?
Well, we were in Vira when we were in Vira Gambarogno, which is the other side of Locarno. My father is originally from Lugano, and he spent his youth in Cademario. And but nevertheless, we grew up in Vira, and then all of a sudden we went to Davos.
All right. And then when did you come to Canada?
In 1986.
All right. And
yeah.
Training, education. What did you do before the iconic cafe?
Oh, I'm a chef. I learned how to be a cook and then a chef. A chef is somebody that runs the kitchen. It's not just a cook. It's a chef means you're running the kitchen.
Okay, awesome. And I
misconception in North America.
We'll skip some history so that we can get to the big part of this. Mm-hmm. You iconic cafe, is it a single business or is it a franchise? Is it a chain?
No. I matter of fact, I was if I can explain, I was always working for other people. I consult people. I took contracts for seasons, winter season or summer seasons, whatever, And when I got older, I couldn't get a job no more because I'm too old, right? For the young people, they don't like us. That we know too much. We're too wise. So I was having a job, but it was not paying that much. But nevertheless, I say, hey, I got no more 4 or 5 years to retirement, so I'm just gonna cruise. But then I have to tell the truth because I know and I can't say why. But anyways, I'm in touch with God, the Creator of all things, the Most High God, and He told me to sell the house and come to Ottawa and buy that specific cafe.
And you know what? Now you reminded me of one thing. I'm going to give you the big warning. You will probably be in a court, maybe at some point, to fight over your lease. Just bear that in mind. I'm going to ask you questions, but if there's anything you don't want to answer, don't feel obliged and just don't plead the fifth, because that would just we'll move on. I'm not here to try to.
No. So I bought this cafe, and I was not. I didn't really have the intention to buy the cafe. But when the Creator is pushing gently towards the direction, you take it. And most of the people in Ottawa and the protests were moved by that same force. And so we bought that cafe. And 9 months after, COVID came in.
You bought the cafe in 2019.
Yeah, but in 2019, the 16th of June.
Was it from my own perspective to try to situate this with the lease? Was it an existing business that had been there previously for a long time?
Yeah, it was a gentleman that owned the business before, and he was selling the business for his own personal reason. and I took over the lease.
Okay, so that's where one area where I'm going with this is you're buying the company which share purchase. You're buying the company which includes the lease. The Iconic Cafe had been there for how long? Do you know before you took over?
A year and a half.
Okay,
Approximately a year and a half.
Okay.
And it was named, the gentleman that sold it to me, he named that Cafe Iconic. And but the Lord told me, buy the name. So I had to buy the name. I was planning to put another name to it, but I had to buy the name. And I took over, and 9 months later, we had to, it was the 20th of March, we had to close down for 3 weeks, they say.
Yeah. 3 weeks. If I may ask, when you bought this in 2019, it had been around since give or take 2017. How long was left on the original lease?
Well, it will be this year or next year up. I didn't check it completely, okay. But yeah.
So it wasn't
to be renewed, right?
Yeah. But so it was not. It was a short lease with renewals 5 year. It wasn't like a 20-year lease or anything.
Yeah. Well, there's an extension, but you renew it as you go.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And so when you purchased it, I mean, I guess this is, I say iconic in more ways than one. This is downtown Ottawa, a premium coffee shop in a premium location. You're in I think there's a hotel above you, or at least an office building. Was it doing well in the 9 months leading up to COVID?
Yeah, if I may say so, I was doing better than the previous owner. There was some difficulties because I was new and people didn't know about me. And there was a building that got emptied, and there was some kind of army people in there from the Canadian Army military. That was emptied for renovation. Then NAF Canada, one building was emptied. And I was wondering what was going on. And so I was losing customers, but I was gaining other customers. And then the other NAF Canada was closing down. There was 2 offices. And I was wondering. And then they also closed down the World Exchange Center for renovation. And I go, what is going on here? And I was losing customers little by little. I was gaining some other ones. But I was still on top of the, I was not drowning, or I was not behind my rent. I was not in, I pay all my bills.
And the coffee shop, it's traditional coffee, pastries, that type of food. It hadn't changed since you took over.
Yeah, it doesn't have changed. What I in the morning you have breakfast or pastry or coffee. And at lunch, you got lunch because you have office people. They don't have time to bring their own food sometime, or they're single people. They don't like to buy food at home. So what they do is they eat their meal at lunch, and then maybe they have a lighter meal in the evening, so they don't have to go and buy food in the store, if I understand that right. But they were eating like pasta or soups or chicken or beef or sandwiches, paninis, samosa and salads. So it was more than a cafe.
Fantastic. Please, I'm going to pin the comments. I'm going to pin it for sure. I can't pin it until the video processes, and then comments are there instead of live chat. Okay, so you're in there for 9 months. COVID hits. They say you're shutting down for 3 weeks. How long did they end up shutting you down for?
2 years. Well, they were saying, this is what I understood on the TV news, right? No, we cannot reopen. But I understood that takeouts businesses were starting to do business. So I went down to visit the location, and I saw Tim Horton open, Starbucks open, Second Cup open, Subway open. So I said, why can I not be open too? So I opened in August the 4th or the 6th with my daughter, and we started from that point on.
This is August.
To have takeouts.
August 2020. So this is like 4.
Yeah.
Like 4 months. Okay. And you open for takeout. A lot of people, this is, call it innovation out of necessity, to stay alive. You open for takeout only, but what is the government giving you in terms of subsidy from the shutdown until you open for takeout? And what is going on with your rent vis-a-vis the landlord?
Okay, so the first 3 or 4 months, the government was forcing, or I shouldn't say force, but yeah, they were actually forcing the landlord to notify through our information to the landlords how much money they needed. So they were paying a percentage, like if I recall correctly, it was 30% was I had to pay, 30% the landlord, 30% the government, something like that. And after the 3.5 months, we had to apply ourselves to the government, and I did for I think it was September, October, November, December, and January. But after that, I didn't apply no more because I was scared. Because once they give you money, they own you. That's my opinion. I don't say I know if that's true or not, but you can't trust the government. I'm sorry. So I decided to survive myself. My wife got some money of the RSP out, some saving, whatever. We tried to hold on to it anyways. We were trying to hold on.
Quo Vadis says this here. You're even if it's whatever the numbers are, 30%, 50%, 20%, you are paying a percentage of your rent to the landlord.
Yeah.
He's assuming a percentage of the loss. The government's compensating him. You're doing this with absolutely no income at this time, right?
Yeah. And so when we opened in August, we had not many customers, and they also open up some of the offices to be able to work at 30% or something like that. But at this point, a few businesses went out of a few cafe restaurants went out of business, and so I gained some more customer. And by Labor Day, Canadian Labor Day, we were not doing great, but we were doing pretty good. And then Mr. Ford, the Minister of Ontario, the Premier, shut down again the offices.
And then let me ask you this: you get the discounted, you get to pay some of your lease, some of your rent, while being totally closed. When you decide to open for takeout, is your expectation to pay 100% of your rent again, or do you still benefit from the reduction?
No, we were benefit from the reduction, but we had to also. It was different this time. At this time, you had to say how much income you were doing the year before or 3 months before the COVID, and they were giving you a percentage according to the revenue you were making. So I was making so low in income that they had to give me 60% of my previous income. Like, there was nobody. It was a desert in downtown Ottawa. But because of what do you call it? The necessity to eat, some individual were ordering food through the takeout. The DoorDash, the Skip the Dishes, the Uber Eats. And so I tried to survive that way. And we went from Labor Day to Thanksgiving. And at that point at Thanksgiving, we were doing actually not bad. And I shut down again. Like, not me, but the offices, to work in the offices, the gyms.
Yeah. So you could still stay open, but Ottawa downtown, it's a ghost town. Because for everybody who was looking at the protests saying, my goodness, these people are disrupting residential neighborhoods. Yeah. That was only on the tail ends of the convoy where people parked blocks away from Parliament Hill, where you are, Enrico. If businesses are closed, if the buildings are closed, there's nobody down there. People don't live there residentially. Nobody's vacationing there.
Yeah. For example, I'm on Slater Street, but right where I am, there's an Arc Hotel, and then there's another hotel, but there's not really apartment. But if you go farther east, west, forgive me, then you start to see some apartment, but you have to go at least 4 or 5 blocks or more. I mean, I was just driving there today, and I see, there's a few apartments. That's pretty far out. I mean, the trucks were there, but not as much or concentrated like it was more in the core, right? But they were not that noisy. Trust me. They were only noisy when they arrived, you know, and they arrived, they were having a party, you know, like they were like, oh, you know.
Well, I mean, I was there. It was noisy, especially on Wellington. But the further you got, you noticed the sound dissipated because I didn't even need the plug-in mic to talk. But setting all that aside, they shut down. It was like 3 weeks, and it turned into 2 years. But at some point, they allowed you to open for takeout, which you do in August. Then they opened up. At some point, they opened up the downtown office buildings. But who the heck was going anyhow? Then Ford shut that down again. About when did he shut that down again?
The first time he shut down, you know, like you have to understand there's the gyms, the air saloons, the you know, the nail spas. There's other businesses like IT offices and all that. So when they're not allowed to have more than 30% of the staff in there, you have nothing, you know. And so in September they did that. Then they did Thanksgiving, and then they did the Christmas. When we were just about to, you know, get going, it was another variant of that, you know, whatever they call that cold.
Well, no medical advice, Enrico. But so they shut. It's repeated shutdowns. Let me ask you the very indiscreet question. As of the time of the convoy, did you have arrears to your landlord?
Yeah, I no, before the shutdown. No. I was paying all my bills.
But before shutdown period.
Pardon me?
Well, that's to say before the first lockdown. I think before the protests, before the convoy arrived, and you stayed open to.
Oh yeah. No, I was owning that money, but I was trying to do my best. I had some catering going on and whatever, so I try always to pay what I could. And what was allowed to me to do. I even had a second job on the weekend in an old age home, and I was paying with that. Whatever I had, I just gave.
No, and I'll tell you something, because it might seem incriminating if you had arrears. That means rent owing to your landlord. One of my more traumatizing judgments was my client was a landlord who, over 18 months, allowed his client to pay late. Forgave bank, you know, what do they call them? Insufficient fund checks, you know, forgave everything to let the person stay in business. And then said at one point, after like a dozen bounced checks in a year, you're out and I want you out. And the judge actually came to the conclusion that by virtue of the landlord's tolerating prior defaults, he was foreclosed from extrajudicial termination of the lease, or even terminating of the lease, because the guy brought himself up to you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all that to say is, the tolerance of the fact that you were in arrears is a double-edged sword for the landlord. But so you were in arrears. Is it a monumental sum? Like, is it?
Yeah, I would say because every time I was trying to catch up, the government was not allowing to go people back to work, or, you know, work from home. And I was in a substantial amount, and it was around. Around 50 to 60,000 just before Christmas. Then I give some money, and then I was going to give some more. But then again, this 2022, Mr. Ford shut down again. And then at this point, I said, I don't think I'm going to survive. And he went from, you know, to 70,000. Yeah. And I paid 15,000 just 2 weeks before the Wild Wild West happened down in downtown. Yeah. And I was saying that I was going to pay another 10,000, and but yeah. Anyways, I'm now apparently I have to give them 85,000 because they want me to pay another extra 3 months until June. But I cannot get into the cafe.
Well, let me ask you some legal questions. Do they have security over any assets?
Well, no, that's the thing. It doesn't make sense. So when I signed the lease, they say if you find the rear, you cannot take any of the assets, you know, like the equipment, whatever. But what they told me is I can take the equipment out. I don't get it, but they want $85,000.
Well, I can tell you from the business perspective, they want you and everything else out, except they want to try to recoup as much as they can. But those two things can be mutually exclusive. If they have a tenant who's coming in and says, I have no need for this crap, so either you take it out or the landlord takes it out at their cost if you just abandon it. But any personal guarantees under the lease?
What do you mean personal guarantees?
Like, did you personally guarantee a certain portion of the obligations under the lease so that assets or not, the landlord can still come after you personally?
Well, I think he can go after me. That's why I say my lawyer said that they cannot ask me to put my house or whatever, but they were asking anyway.
No, all's fair in love and war, but and I'm saying that tongue in cheek. There's some stuff that's not fair, but that's still done. But so like up until the eviction, up until the protest, say like day one before the convoy arrives, what's your relationship like with your landlord? Are they tolerating the arrears, saying, don't worry about it, you can pay later, just pay us in installments?
Well, it depends, because they were seeing that I was, how can I say, I was fighting, to stay alive.
Yeah.
Some of them manager or executive, and some of them, they didn't care about me. So it was who's going to take the decision to kick me out, really. But how you say, the accountant was calling me and wanted to see my bank books. She wanted to see my income and all that. And I said, this is not legal. What she's asking is not professional. That's my personal stuff. But I asked to be able to talk to somebody, and who I talked to, I don't know where to go in order to have a proper discussion about the lease and all that. But nobody, I was sent from point A to point B to point C, point A, B, C, but nobody was taking my question seriously.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Under the lease, they probably have the right to look at your finances to make sure that you're not actually generating revenue but not paying rent. And from their perspective, if you're saying we don't have enough money to pay your rent, they want to make sure that you're not under the table or undisclosed. But no, typically they have, all of this with a big caveat. I did Quebec law, not Ontario law. And one thing we're going to talk about, Enrico, because I guarantee you it's in your lease, is the extrajudicial termination clause, which gives your landlord the right to cancel your lease without going to court, change the locks, kick you out, put your stuff on the curb, and you're done. And they don't even need to go to court to have that adjudicated upon. So we won't call it tension, but the landlord was on your back prior to this event about arrears, making sure that you're actually as not liquid as you say you are to justify not paying rent.
Yeah. So to completely answer your question, they were seeing that I was getting busy. Every time that they reopened the offices, they said, he's making money because my cafe got busy. But every time the premier or the prime minister is shutting down, it dies completely down to $100 a day or $150 a day. I mean, come on. It's not even good for the toilet paper, you know what I'm saying? And not even enough for the hydro, tell you the truth. And so...
Sorry. Go ahead.
So they were hoping, I believe, they were hoping that these mandates would stop, but they continue coming. And so at one point they have to pull the plug, I assume, right? I assume.
Yeah. It's, by the way, it's also, it's not to excuse the landlords. It's true. The landlords need the rent. They've got it's an ecosystem. They've got their expenses. They've got their financing. They've got their utilities. They pay that with the tenants, but the tenants need to make money to pay rent. And when all of this ecosystem is shut down by the government, it screws everything up from top to bottom to top, and inside out. So they see you open up, they're like, oh, he's good, he's making money now. Let's go get our arrears. But it's not like, even if you make $100,000 in a month, you can't give $100,000. You can't give 100% of that to them, because you've got to live. You've got to pay yourself. You've got to. So
exactly.
Sorry. So go on there.
So, like for example, they saw that with the trackers, I was packed, and it was good. I finally see some faces, not masks. And as soon as I had 15,000, I gave it to them right away, just to show that I am an honest person, that I will pay off if there is my chance. But I was waiting for them to also shut me down. But in the same time, I was saying, no, I'm doing my best. The last conversation I had by emails, they asked me, was my payment plan? And I explained to them, I cannot promise anything with those mandates until this I used to call him Trudolf. Sorry if I said that is coming with those stupid mandates, I can't promise anything because we don't know when another variant is coming. I can't promise you. I'll do my best, but I cannot promise you. And when I have it, I'll give it to you because I'm not rich or whatever. But I gave already my what do you call it? Savings. My wife gave some of her RSPs. I mean, what else? I went to work another job. I did some catering. I mean, what else can I do? I mean, I can't get money out of the air, right?
Well, the expression is you can't get blood from
But
a turnip.
I showed that I was doing my best. I was working 7 days a week for a year and a half straight.
Well, I'll tell you what now, Enrico, as we talk about this, the MO of the landlord is quite obvious. That 3 weeks when you stayed open and you did good business, they got 15K out of you. And then when when the police came in and shut everything down indefinitely, you're useless. You're not going to generate any more money. Seize the opportunity to get you out and maybe find a new tenant.
Big mistake because even when I reopened after my incident in the cafe, I right away generated more income than before and almost equal before pre-COVID. Big mistake. There could have been paid off.
Well, let me ask you this, because this was one of my working theories throughout the convoy. When everyone was saying it's violent, it's dangerous, businesses are being told to close down, and I I arrived, saw it with my own eyes, and it's like, any business that stays open now is going to do gangbuster business unless they turn people away because they don't show the vaccine passport, which I didn't know was in effect in Ontario. I asked the subway, I asked a few local businesses, and they said, yeah, weekdays are still very quiet, but the weekends line up out the door. How did you do business-wise in the 3 weeks of the convoy protest?
I was packed every day because I allowed them to come in and use the washroom. If they were cold and they didn't have no money, the protester, not the convoy, the protester, I would let them warm up. I also serve food. I let them sit down because in the beginning, they were not even allowed to sit down the first week. It was freezing cold, if you remember. You had an interview with Christensen. Now I remember. You were outside at the door.
Yeah, we had some internet issues.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and I was
it's good thick brick walls that you have in the restaurant because I got no connection indoors.
Yeah. So I was actually sitting down with a Pastor Perry or something was his name, and I was looking over. I saw him talking to you. Nevertheless, I was constantly busy from 7:30 all the way to 3 o'clock. I had to actually say to people, please leave because my wife has to sleep. I have to buy food, and I have to prepare for the morning because I had no staff.
Yeah,
hire staff. I said, how can I hire staff? Nobody wants to work. Everybody wants to take money from home. I mean, the people in my field, right? In my field, not I don't know. I don't talk for everybody, but in the food and business, really, it's hard to explain.
Well, maybe
people that want to work because of the experience, because of that, there's not that many.
No, but Enrico, people have to appreciate if the general population was getting $2,000 a month, give or take, to not work. Working a coffee shop, I worked in a coffee shop when I was a kid, when I was younger. What are you making? You're making at the time $600 a week. So what you're going to work for just about as much as you would get for not working and having fun. It's a phenomenon that I noticed over the summer, over the last year, and talked about when I was running for office. Like you go to these coffee shops, pizzerias, restaurants, they can't find staff because the incentive to work those jobs is not there. Those with the natural incentive have already found other jobs because the work wasn't there for the longest time. And so it's a vicious circle, setting aside whether or not you can even afford to pay them $2,000 a month because you're not making money in the meantime.
That is the thing. As soon as it comes a mandate, you can't pay them. You have to lay them off. Then it says you cannot lay them off. You have to apply for that. Oh my God!
I'm laughing. It's not funny. You either laugh or you cry at this idiocy because you don't need to be an economist to know that this was the way it was going to happen. And there's only so much damage you can do before you say, "My goodness, is the cure worse than the illness?"
Well, I talked with some compadres, in this business, and we came to the conclusion it was by design. There was, it's political speaking here, but it was by design to get us out of business, the small businesses, and let the franchises prosper.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is go for it. It's a sentiment a lot of people have.
Yeah, sorry, just a second.
Yeah, go for it. I hope that's not your lawyer saying stop talking to Viva.
Hello.
Let me take him out just in case. I'll bring Enrico back when I see that he's not there. It's the vicious circle of all of this. Is you couldn't find employees even if you wanted to, because what was it? First of all, people had no incentive financially within a certain salary bracket. Factor two, people have been traumatized for a year that if you go back and work and get exposed to the public, you're going to fall ill, terminally ill. Part three, well, the hiring issue wasn't the problem, except that the people, to get the interest in the prospective employment, had to start offering, I won't say, above market rates, but what had historically been above market rates to garner the attention. So you want to get someone to work at a coffee shop, you have to pay them 50% more than what market rate was before COVID. You don't have the revenue to do it. They keep shutting you down willy-nilly at the drop of a hat, and then you have to lay them back off. And what kind of worker wants to deal with that? Even if they can deal with the the stress of the job. Oh, you know what? While we have Dave, I'm going to bring you back in. Then I'm going to bring you back in. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's really interesting. I love hearing your legal angle with kind of dissecting everything that's going on with him.
I've done both. I'll say I sucked and blowed at a legal sense about this, because I once had one client. There was, we'll get into these extrajudicial termination clauses, but it was in the lease. Landlord, if you're in arrears and you don't satisfy it within a certain period of time, they get to terminate your lease, change the locks, seize your stuff without going to court. When I had a client who I thought had a good reason for, not paying rent, even though the lease said no offsetting, we fought it. And we went to court, and I said, you can't exercise that clause because you're in default yourself. You're preventing me from enjoying this premises. To make the money to pay your rent, you can't then invoke absence of rent to cut me out. But then when I had another way, I tried to invoke it myself, and I said that the client had no good reason, or the tenant had no good reason not to pay. All right, I see Enrico's back. Dave, don't be offended. I'll bring you back soon.
Be offended, Dave. Don't be offended, Dave.
All right, Enrico. So what was I going to say? Where were we? Oh, you're finding staff. So you're working. It's you and your wife. I mean, it's 24/7 for anybody who doesn't appreciate it. You got to prep the food. You got to make the food before you even open. Then you've got to staff the restaurant while it's open. You got to clean up after you close, get ready for the next day, and get up and do it all again. And in between, you have to eat, sleep, and live.
Yeah. And I would not even be able to do that unless my daughter would come without pay, work 2 or 3 days a week after she fulfilled her other 3 jobs, because that's what COVID does to you, right? Let's call it COVID, the situation, right? But we know what it is. And she would help me and get my papers straight and my emails and everything, because you're not even able to do the office, because you come home, the first thing you put is you want to put your head into the pillow, but you have to recall yourself, I need to take a shower. But you would fall asleep in the shower. People don't understand the stress, the continual thoughts of when I'm going to be able to pay the rent, when they're going to shut you out, how deep I'm going to get into that. Because if I would have not, let's be honest, if I would have not continued to be open, I couldn't afford the food on the table. Because, again, they say go to work. Well, I don't want to take the shot. Again, we go back to that stupid COVID mandate.
And I mean, and you say like the stress, falling asleep in the shower, psychological stress, spiritual, physical, and in the meantime, like exercise and healthy living. I mean, who has time for that luxury anymore? So Enrico, you stay open for the 3 weeks of the protest. I say gangbuster business, but you're doing well. You're doing well. And
I know. I was doing well. And I said to my wife, they now they know me. Like it's amazing how people from Ottawa, again, it's just a minuscule part of Ottawa that is against the truckers. But the majority of my customers, they loved that was how you say, they loved the fact that I was serving, or serving is the right word, the protester and the convoy on top of that, because
let me ask you this, because this is where it gets fishy, but I'm trying to understand it. I'm not trying to defend anyone, and there's no but. I don't necessarily see this as a reprisal from the landlord for having served truckers. I just see this as them saying, we got all we're going to get out of him. Now that now that it's been open and we've shut down Ottawa again, there's police barricades up. He's not going to be making any more money. Now's our chance. We've gotten our last sort of drop in the bucket. Kick him out. But when did you get any blowback whatsoever, or did you, for having been open and having served truckers or protesters? Did you get specific blowback from that? And if you did, from whom?
From the landlord you're talking about, or
from either the landlord or the police for the first time?
I put a sign up. We're saying, as a joke, it was fun because Trudeau did not get it, that they were not going to leave until they could talk to him. So I put a sign up. It says, we don't leave until he goes. And in one way it says he goes out of office, or he goes to speak with the truckers, right? And so the landlord showed me a clause in the contract that they didn't want to have kitschy signs on the windows.
Okay. Let me stop you there. For anybody who doesn't know, standard boilerplate, any signs need to be approved by the landlord on a business. This is setting aside political expression. Any sign that you display has to be approved by the landlord in advance. You got to submit your plans, yada, yada, yada. And typically the tenant has to pay for them. So the landlord, that's funny. You put up a political sign, so that's showing affiliation or political orientation. And the landlord says, you're not allowed putting up a sign unless we approve of it, and we don't approve of this?
Yeah, let's say that's not. It goes against the lease of proper signs and whatever. You know that what I mean.
Yeah, no,
it was funny. So that's how one of the thing. And another thing too is I had some offices upstairs that there were. I mean, I don't have them. There were offices upstairs that used to come and eat at my place. When they saw the truckers, they didn't want to come down no more, which is okay. And then some of them actually wanted to eat because my food is good, if I can say so, or at least eatable. And they asked me to enforce the mask, and I started to laugh again because I'm sorry, I cannot enforce. It's a mandate. A mandate is a willing, a personal willingness to, as a favor, that you do that without being paid. It's not a law. It doesn't matter how you call it. A mandate is not a law. And even some other people say, no, it is a law because it's going to be passed in legislation. And I go, wait a minute. They had all that time to do that. Why they didn't do it? Let's face it. Come on. It's a mandate because they cannot enforce it. It's against your Bill of Rights, whatever it is, Anyway, I say, if you want, to my customers, say, if you want, you can enforce it, but I don't do that. And so that some of them had boycotted me again, but others came down. But you could see there was some kind of animosity, some complaining from those office employer to the landlord. Somehow there was a communication going because,
Well, if I may, is the landlord an individual, or is it one of those property management firms?
Property management company.
Okay, and I don't care for the name. I'm not trying to dox or out anybody.
I don't want to say it either because that's their business.
Okay, and so they right off the bat don't like your politics because of the sign. They know you've been in arrears from before. Had you had any run-ins with them other than the arrears because of COVID? Had you had any incidents with the landlords that soured the relationship prior to that, or did it get exponentially worse?
I have it in the beginning. They sent me an email, right, in 2020, and I was not watching my email because I thought business was dead. So why do I watch me? And plus, I was depressed. I was depressed. I was deeply depressed because I didn't know what to do, because here I am buying my first business in my life, and 9 months into it, I have no income. So so she calls me, and that's the accountant, and literally she's angry at me. She's ticked, and she almost yells at me. Like, actually, quite, if I can say it, yells at me and say, "Why are you so mean? What's your problem?" She says, "I'm trying to help you so that you can get your 30%. And I said, "Wait a minute. If I understand correctly, you helping yourself, not me." As you get my 30%, you get your 30%, and so at least you got 60% of the revenue. And she didn't like me from that point on. Really, she didn't really like me. But unfortunately, it was my fault. I didn't check the email. And number two, my accountant, they shut down the office. It was hard to reach him. I didn't know what to do, how to apply. I had no clue. And everywhere I asked, they work from home, these people. They don't want to work. I'm sorry. Those government people, they don't want to work. I'm sorry. They can say what they want. There's a handful of, let's see, like a good 10% that want to work. The other one, they just, you're on the phone for hours. They don't answer. You're on call waiting with the music, and you stay there another hour and a half. And what is going on here? This is how Canada is run now, from home, and God knows, maybe fishing the people. I don't know.
Enrico, let me tell you something. When I was in Ottawa, it was actually the last day of the Saturday, and my car got towed because I accidentally parked it in front of a very disguised walkway or driveway. I called 311 to find out where the car was. That's what someone told me to do. It went on a loop, and then it disconnected me. Then I called 911, not because it was an emergency, just because I didn't know what else to do. I was on hold on 911 before even speaking with an agent. It looped through 4 times of their "please hold, someone will get" for 911.
Your call is very important.
No, but it's like what? Meanwhile, if it were an emergency, I'm waiting on hold on 911 in Ottawa while they have a freaking military invasion of Ottawa to break up that protest. Priorities, people. Okay, so parentheses closed. I actually want to get to the confrontation you had with the police, because I don't understand how that came to be. But you stay open for the 3 weeks. You do good business. You pay down the arrears to the landlord, and then are you open the Saturday everything gets shut down?
Well, no, I was open. I was open because, like I told you before, I do what the Lord tells me. And contrary to other people's opinions of individuals, the Lord can talk to you very clearly if you consecrate yourself to Him. So I understood that I have to be open. So I went out, and I was on Saturday, and we saw that they were moving towards the core of the city, the police. During to that point. Bringing to that point, the whole week they were shutting down lanes, so it was very aggravating to go to work. You couldn't figure out. At one time, it took me 6.5 hours to get to work, when it takes normally 18 to 20 minutes. Because I had to run around trying to figure out where I can come in, because everything was blocked. Now you cannot. It's like, and then there was some some blockage, and you just couldn't. So I finally figured out how to get in. And then I had to figure out how to get out, because I didn't know which part was closed or open. So I went to a police officer. He yelled at me, says, "How the hell did you get in?" I have to work. Duh. And then I asked, "Can I ask you for direction? Where is blocked, not blocked?" They were not even from the city. This is a police officer. However, on that Saturday, I noticed that there was stuff happened, because my customer came in and they were talking about it, but I didn't see with my own eyes, and I couldn't really look at the social media because I was too tired. I was trying to open up my eyes because I was busy, but my wife showed me the incident with the horses, the pepper spraying. They had those guns with the rubber bullet.
The rubber bullet guns, and they had tear gun, canister guns.
Yeah, so I was watching, said, "What the hell are they doing?" But they cannot do that unless there's a state of emergency. And I don't recall it that the legislator or give permission to the prime minister to have a state of an emergency. And before the Family Days, which is a big day in Canada, since Harper, the prime minister, put it in, and I would have made a bet there would have been maybe triple the amount of people on that day, and they didn't want to have those. They don't even want to have that protest, and so he called in a state of an emergency, and how you say, they started on a Saturday really to be aggressive. I confronted on the Quebec side one of those green suited army dudes, and I said, I'm not too very impressed with your behavior. And why not? And he says, because you're supposed to serve the Canadians, not an agenda. And he didn't like that. I noticed that. I says, well, everybody has the opinion. I says, I want you to remind about something. And he was very polite. I said, what? And I said, it's not the government that pays you, it's us that pay you. So remember that. And the next day, for whatever reason, which was Sunday, I went into the cafe. My wife was there, and it was, at first it was like a desert. There was nobody around, and I know they cleaned up a lot. And I say, what's happening? I'm gonna be still open anyways, because there's other restaurants that are closed. I noticed there was other restaurants closed, and it was kind of chilly and cold. And so I was waiting for coffee. All of a sudden, a lot of people came in, and some of them were crying, some of them were shocked, because they were seeing something outside where I could not see. And one of the lady that came in, she was a nurse, a nurse from the veterans, and she bought some breakfast to bring to the veterans and the memorial. And all of a sudden, I heard that she got arrested on the way out from my cafe. And I went outside to see what was going on, but I didn't see her. Beside that, she was lifted up like this and carried away. And some lady asked her, she's my friend, I want to know where you're bringing her. She's safe, they told her. And I go, uh-oh, this doesn't look too good. And the people wanted to see where they were bringing the young nurse. She was not young, but the nurse, the small nurse. And they told them to stay behind from that area. And the individual asked why, and they say it's because this is a red zone. And that's when I lost it in a way. I say, what do you mean a red zone? There's no blue, green, red zone or whatever. It says, oh, well, no, this is a red zone. And I say, and I was very curious, because I was wondering, right? And my voice, my dialect, my accent, my way of speaking sounds maybe aggressive, but I don't mean to be aggressive. I say, how can it be a red zone? If it would have been a red zone, they would have called me. They would have told me, stay away, don't come to work, you know? And he says, believe it or not, there's a court order. And I go, how can it be a court order? It's Saturday, Sunday. There's no court order. What are you talking about? And they didn't like that either. And then they say, this is the state of emergency. I say, he cannot call it a state of an emergency. Don't you see it? You're doing wrong. You're breaking the law. And they got upset on me, I guess.
But was the when they wanted to close you down, was it because was it anything to do with the arrears and the landlord, or was it just to do with the emergency order and you should be closed?
No. See, I don't know what they were thinking. Number one, because they were not thinking with their own, beside, executing whatever orders they got. But I was seeing a lot of people arrested outside my cafe, not right in front of it, but everywhere on the sidewalks. And some young lady got punched in the head. And that's why me and another guy went out again to the cafe and said, what are you doing? You're not allowed to do this stuff. Are you guys crazy or something? And they didn't like that either. So if I was allowed or not allowed to be open, I don't know, because I just went to work. And they allowed me to go through the blockage, and they were removing all the vehicles, and they want to remove my vehicles too. It says I'm allowed to park here. It's Saturday and Sunday, you're allowed to park. I said, no, this is not. I said, well, and then the story with the bylaws and all that. The guy didn't even know how to read the bylaws, the sign of the bylaws, and I don't care how they put those signs up. They they don't make no sense. However, on Saturday and Sunday, you're allowed to park the car there. There's no problem. That's why I say you cannot tow it. And he says, don't worry, we'll take care of your car. So finally, when he realized that he was taped by my wife and somebody else, he allowed me to remove the car. But at that point, my wife and I noticed this. We'll take care of him later on. And that's when when they finished their job or the cleaning up of the street, they went after the cafe. But at that point, we realized we locked the door and we don't comply. And they try to do what you see in the movie. That's all.
So
they were intimidating. They were intimidating. They were, how can I say? They were successful with some costume I had inside. I had two families in there, one with children, and when they went away for a short time, I say it's better time to leave now because it could be getting worse here. And when they went out, I relocked the door. An older lady came back. She wanted to have a coffee. They actually grabbed her and pushed her away like this. And my wife did not like that. And that's when we knew that they were after us. But the authority of God, again, is much bigger than the authority of the enemy, and they couldn't come in because I stood on my ground on the bills of right, charter right, whatever you want to call it, and they were breaking the law and they were not police officer, because at that point I realized they were not police officer because they had no badge number, no name. They just had a vest with say police on it. Some of them had accents. They're not from Canada, I assume. And numbers on like this, like they're like A441 or whatever, something like this.
I noticed that also. The brown, the darker green or brown, all in brown. They didn't have names. They had numbers. I think some of them did have names, but there were very confusing things going on. Speak to a trustee. We'll address bankruptcy afterwards. That's another field in which I have reasonably decent experience as a lawyer. It's not as easy as you think, and also you don't want to do it unless you absolutely have to. We'll get there. But what if you don't know exactly what they wanted to do? What did they say they wanted to get in for, and what do you think they wanted to get in for?
Well, it says to open the door. I say no. They repeatedly asked me to open the door, and I say no. And I cannot say one thing; it will be incriminating me. Not because I say something wrong, but because they're gonna. If I say what I'm going to say, what I want to say, then they're going to use it in case I go in court. But nevertheless, they wanted to come in and they couldn't, and they realized they could not come in because they had to break in entry. And I recognize them not to be police officers. I say, I don't trust you. You're not a police officer. I was saying all those, and they didn't want to listen. They were intimidated. They were taking pictures. There was a costume inside. They were shaking like leaves. One other guy was holding the tears back. One was crying. I mean, is that how you're supposed to bring order to a peaceful protest? I leave it that to the public to decide to see if it's all right or not. But I stood on my ground, and they also told me that they're going to break down the window and come in and arrest everybody. I say, you're free to do whatever you want, but I remind you that you're breaking already the law as it is. And if you go further than that, you're gonna have to pay for damages. And then I decided to put in a sign where it says not trespassing, common law jurisdiction. Then they got the message. And I also told them I don't bow down to the beast.
I'm just trying to figure out what they wanted to do. As of the current date, did you get any, I don't know, public health order infractions, any tickets, any citations, any charges?
Okay, so I got 2 tickets. I mean, they put it under the door. I don't acknowledge them because to me, they were not police officers. They were not bylaw officers. According to me, they didn't act like, officer of the city. They were acting like guerrillas. And you couldn't even recognize the name on this piece of paper. And the funny part is, a police officer is giving me a ticket from the bylaw office little booklet. Like, what are you doing? And they said, do you understand? And I said, do you understand that you're breaking the law by trying to be a bylaw officer. So they were not there as bylaw officer. They say also we have here the bylaw officer. They want to inspect the place. I say
inspection on a Sunday with no notice.
Sunday, yeah. And I say, I'm sorry, there's nothing to inspect. Well, you have to be open. So I decided to turn off the cafe to close because now at this point they were not allowing people to come close or not. So, and then they realized they were filmed. And one officer and made signs to the other officer, whoa, 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 watch out, we're filmed. So this is how it went. They could have broken the window, but then they would have shown the whole world what they were really about. Who was breaking the window of the restaurants or the business downtown?
It is amazing, being filmed keeps people honest. Typically, that's why arguably sometimes they don't want live streaming 24/7. So the police leave. That's the Sunday. The Monday was Family Day.
Yeah,
everything's shut down in Ottawa on Family Day, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was going to be open at first, and I told my wife, no, I decided to not be open because you need a rest. And then on Sunday, when that all happened, I says, I don't think I'm going to they're going to arrest me if they see me downtown. So I was away for a whole week. And then when I find out that they were leaving, some of those police officers from the hotels, that's when I opened the following Monday after the Family Days.
So a week after Family Day, a week and 2 days after the Saturday shutdown of the protest, violent shutdown. When do you get the notice of eviction from your landlord?
So I opened on Monday, and I had fairly good business, 45% of pre-COVID. And the next day, on Tuesday, I had it was 75 to almost 78% of revenue pre-COVID. On Wednesday, I already passed pre-COVID revenue. And that was no protester there.
Well, and if I may also, that's still while there's a heavy police presence, right? They hadn't taken down the fences. They still had
exactly
informal checkpoints. Who are your customers at this point? Are they people who are there because they've heard of you and they want to support you? Or is it local downtown employees?
A mixture of everything. Some people went back to work and they couldn't wait to get my food. They got used to it. Others, they were supporting me also as my previous customer. And then I had some visits of they wanted to see the guy that stood in front of the glass door. And then also the other customer from upstairs from the office. So, I mean, they know me and they like the healthy food. Whatever you get at Subway, whatever you get at Tim Hortons, it's not really healthy food. So they like my food, it was a mixture of things, but because there was the extra supporter, I went way above the pre-COVID revenue, and I was going to get more because I went actually buy some stuff on Wednesday evening, 8:23. PM. I watched afterwards. I saw an email that says the locks are changed and your lease is terminated, and you have to take your personal belonging before March 24th, which is my birthday, and otherwise they're gonna seize it.
Important question that'll probably come up if and when this ever gets to court. The locks are physically changed as of 8:23, and you've got a notice of eviction. You're out.
Yeah.
Did you get a notice at any point beforehand? You have X amount of time to cure your arrears or cure your default.
No.
And so they physically changed the locks, so you are locked out of your own business. I'll say unilaterally, obviously, but without any notice, without any warning, without any notice.
Yeah, I had to interview the day before, and I must have touched a really, 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 really hot subject.
You had two interviews with them the day before?
No, 2 interviews with some what do you call it, social media, and I told the truth. I told the truth about what's going on, and they didn't. I think I touched some subjects, and yeah, it was really penetrating. It was a good 2 interviews, very good interviews, and I don't even know how nice it came out, and yeah, so that's most likely one extra reason to shut me down. You know, like,
Well,
or it's now or never, right? Because this guy goes bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Well,
You know,
it's curious because if you're making the money, it is probably a bad time. I would have thought they said, okay, we got all we could out of him. But in those social media interviews, did you poo-poo on the landlord or did you just poo-poo on the government?
no, actually, you know what? I always say good things about my landlord. My landlord is very good. He's very patient. He believes in me. I said that they're exemplary landlords, and they will get paid as soon as they get more. And I know I'm now for sure I'm famous, but I poo-poo on the Trudeau and the at what's really going on in Davos, because I know what's going on. I actually live there, so I know what's going on. And one of the things is I poo-poo on the Pope, because he was up there too before the Second World War. And that was a no-no, right? Because they created the Second World War there with some Jewish people. Washed down Jewish people, let's put it this way.
No, I can. Well, first of all, I saw one interview where you got into it, and whether or not, look, people are so crazy. Like, people are so sensitive that if they don't like what you say, they think you shouldn't have the right to say it. And I will not adhere to that. But even that aside, setting aside what I heard tangentially and what I heard through some interviews, you give those interviews, social media, it's out there. Whether or not your landlord never heard of you before that, but then there's no further notice, no nothing, no warning. You come 8:23 Wednesday night, your locks are changed, and you've got a notice. It says you're gone. Move your stuff by the 24th, or we dispose of it ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you have to arrange with the landlord to open up the premises so you can take your stuff out.
Yeah. So I went down. I had an appointment on Thursday, if I'm correct, or Friday. Now I forgot. Sorry, forgive me for not remembering exactly which day it was, because it was a tumultuous 3 or 4 weeks. I asked them, if I pay the whole amount in one shot, can I stay here? And they say, I have to, the manager, I say to me, I have to ask the executive. I'm just a manager. I say, okay. So I had another, I had set an appointment to take out my cash flow, my what do you call it? Personal belonging, like the paper, because I have to do the accounting stuff, right? Since I have some time. And so I asked the manager, so what did the executive say? Can I go? I said, no, your lease is terminated, no matter how much you're paying.
It's interesting. Look, I'm just saying, I know Quebec law. Quebec law and Quebec courts are very reluctant to enforce these extrajudicial termination clauses. They say if there's a legitimate dispute, go to court and figure it out. But the question is, even if you have the money to go to court, or you can find it, do you want to waste all that money fighting this to stay in a premises where you're on bad terms with your landlord? Or do you say, okay, sue me for the arrears, and then we'll take our 2 years and try to get what you can? Listening to what you're saying, the questions that are going off in my head is, is it a wrongful termination of lease if they didn't respect any notice provision? And might the landlord have really screwed themselves in any claim they might have had to arrears, which probably they didn't, because the arrears are owed regardless. And then the second claim would be, I'm thinking, when you remove your stuff, the landlord is now allowing you to remove your stuff because they've changed the lock, so you can only do it by notifying them, and they're allowing you to do it, which might be tacit renunciation to any other potential claim they might have had there as well. But so that's it. You're done. You're out. Like that, and you have no intention of fighting to stay there.
Yeah. So I learned one thing in life: if your girlfriend doesn't want you, don't stop hanging around, right? So don't make a fool of yourself, number one. But what I was trying to say is, well, I could open another place, God willing. So I have to go and check my sign, and the sign was gone, and it belonged to me. and they took it. I don't know where they put it, but they threw it away, and it's $2,000, and it's mine. Excuse me. So there's definitely some stupidity on their part to act so drastically, or they don't know how to convey work orders to their staff. I don't know, but nevertheless, it's like, why would you throw away my sign?
No, because pure malice. It's worth nothing to them, but they know it's worth something to you because you can move that sign to your next location. Enrico,
Well, now it's an iconic. It's an iconic icon, the iconic sign.
Someone says, look into how long you have to file a wrongful eviction. Well, Enrico might have a claim for abuse of rights. I mean, I don't know what it would be called in Ontario, but and ancillary damages, because abusive termination of a lease right at the moment when he started making money, which would allow him to cure his arrears. There's a lot of people who might look at that and say, landlord, have you been engaged with discussions with other prospective tenants at the time this was going on? Because if there's a lawsuit, that's going to come out. And the cynical black-pilled Viva is now saying, it sounds very much like maybe they had someone else who they want there in the first place, and they don't want to give you a chance to get back in business to pay off your arrears because they don't like you, they want you out, and they might have a better tenant. And in which case, anybody who's done commercial leases, that's called acting in bad faith, and it can come back to bite you in the butt in discovery. But all of that stuff aside, you have no interest in going back to this location. And what do you plan on doing now? Like, so you're out, your stuff is out, or do you still have more stuff left in there?
No, I got more stuff out. They thought that in half a day is going to be empty. Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what's wrong with Ottawa. I don't want to insult everybody, but all these young whippersnapper have no clue or respect or understanding of what it involves in terms of labor. Like, for example, to clean up a place is going to take you more than a week. Take apart things, and it doesn't go in half an hour. Number one. Number two is in the office. I mean, when it comes to food, you have to throw away food. I prepared all that food for the next day. It's gone. I cannot reuse it, right? And the day I could have to pick it up was, like, let's say Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 5 days later, it doesn't taste no good no more. So I had to throw away. But I say I like to take the food away that is prepared because it's going to stink the heck out of that place, then you open the fridge. And I bought drinks and everything, it's all there. Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they did that, because you don't do stuff like that to somebody.
Well,
I'll give you a week, I'll give you 10, sold out whatever you can. If they're that nice, like they say they are, they would have done that, right? But they're not that. I'm sorry, a nice person would do that. A non-nice person would just say, But I know they didn't like me, especially the accountant one.
Couple of things are clear. They didn't like you. It was they probably wanted to get you out before you could cure your arrears. They saw the opportunity. Whether or not they might have actually exposed themselves to damages in the way they did it. You have a lawyer right now, Enrico?
No, I don't have a lawyer.
No, I wasn't, and I'm not asking for myself. I'm not asking for. I wasn't asking for myself. I we'll have to make sure that you get a good lawyer.
Yeah, the thing is, I need somebody that knows how those commercial leases work, because it's not a residential lease; it's a commercial lease.
And commercial leasing in Ontario is a little, I won't say the Wild West, but it's a little more lax in what the parties can negotiate. It's quite lax compared to residential leases. It's the Wild West. But even from what I understand of commercial lease law in Ontario, it's a lot more lax than commercial lease in Quebec, where the courts still tend to be much more pro-tenant than pro-choice.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is I don't have a lawyer because I don't know. Well, first of all, I need a commercial lawyer to see if I'm being trapped, because my lease says that I cannot take my equipment out, but then they allow me to take the equipment out. So that's number one. Number two, they were supposed to, I assume, they give me a notification, but they didn't. So I don't know, by me accepting, do I agree to their terms? I make myself subjective to that. I don't know. So all that, and that's why I need a. But then there's the other part where the bylaws, they're not bylaws, but anyways, they give me those tickets, and some people say I have to fire them. But if I fire them, then I go under their law, which it's a mandate. I don't accept that mandate. I don't care.
The problem is, I'll tell you, it's you may not like the alternatives. If you don't go because you don't think you have to, they'll get a judgment in your absence, and you're going to have to abide by you're going to have to play by the laws at one point, sooner than later, or sooner or later. You may not like it, but those are the choices of that you face.
Yeah. So it's hard to trust lawyers. I had an issue with the lawyers in the past, and all he wanted was my money, the little bit of money that I had. And he went on for almost 2 years and never resolved the situation like I always asked. They like to deal and wheel and deal and wheel. And when I sold the house the last time and bought the house, the one lawyer in Ottawa took forever to sell my house, completely, because I don't know, they like to go take it back and forth. In the meantime, I spend the money and time, right?
Yeah, well, look, I'm very critical of lawyers, but occasionally I will defend them. The problem is, for anybody who's done this, these things take years. I mean, literally, I've had commercial landlord disputes that have gone on for 2 years at least, and it's like, it's endless, and it costs money, and it's disgusting, and it's stomach turning, even from the lawyer's perspective. It's like it's not like you feel good about charging your hourly rate to do this, but everybody's entitled to work and get paid.
No, so, but I think that when you go to a court, let's get it done and over it. Don't make a big business so that you have enough money for the future. No, they don't care about the defendant or the accuser. They just care that they make their money. I'm sorry. Well, that's how I see it, and I don't trust.
No, look, I would say you're not wrong not to trust lawyers. There are good ones still, but what you might want to, I might put you in touch with Rebel News, because they do have funds to help people. And with a case like yours, your GoFundMe, you're going to see it's going to start filling up. So you'll be able to crowdfund for legal fees, but it depends what, you need to get the assessment. What do you want to pursue by way of legal course of action?
But that's the thing. I need counsel, but who am I going to trust? That's the thing. Well, nobody came really forward to offer himself for me beside one guy, and I cannot trust him.
Well, no, hold on a second. Lawyers can't come forward. You have to go to them. They cannot. I don't think it's different in Ontario. They can't solicit business. So that's
okay. So that's one thing I have to understand. That, number one, and the people give me phone numbers, but how can a lawyer from another province represent me?
Yeah, no, that common law is common throughout Canada, except in Quebec. But there's specific provision, there's specific laws to each province. Okay, we'll figure this out afterwards. I'll give you numbers, and it'll be up to you as to who you call. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now bottom line, now you're out, no income, Enrico. Just to ask the totally crass question.
No income, and I don't think I will get a job because the employers are mostly pro-government mandate. And I would be a no face to have in their business.
Yeah, no doubt.
My wife cannot work because she's a nurse, and they want them to have a shot. Mm-hmm. And no shot. So we have to go as, I don't know.
And let me ask another crass question. You have a mortgage?
Yes. The house I'm into, we just put the minimum down payment in 2019.
Okay, well, if there's one silver lining, I presume you're locked in for another few years with a good mortgage rate, so that you don't have to go up with a good interest rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then as far as any remaining assets in terms of salvaging or minimizing your losses, how much stuff do you have left in the premises that the landlord is allowing you to remove?
Well, when I bought the premises, I calculated approximately around $85,000 of assets. Between tables and coffee machine and
fridges,
fridges and all that. But that will be depreciated as you go on 2 or 3 years later. Number one. Number two is who's going to buy that now? Anyways, all the restaurants are out of business.
Oh, yeah, they'll buy it for 30 cents on the dollar if you're the luckiest person on earth. It's generally
So really, what is assets, right?
No, right the only reason they would be worthwhile would be for you if you find another location to open up.
Yeah, they don't have to buy it. If you have to buy it, then you still have to pay the price. Just like the gas, in the last day, $1.86 for a liter of gas here in Canada.
It cost me $132 to fill up my Subaru this afternoon. Admittedly, I did wait for it to be on the reserve tank because I wanted to set a new personal best. I'll tweet the image out in case anybody doesn't believe it. So look, everyone in the chat, I'm going to pin the Give, Send, Go where you can find Enrico. If Dave is still watching, I'll bring him back for a final farewell between the three of us. Enrico, I say stay strong. You look like you are a man of faith. I'm open about my not having faith in spirituals in the overtly religious stuff, but spirituality and karma. But what if I may ask? Because what denomination or what aspect of I don't know how to even phrase it. What denomination of religion are you?
It's a good question. We are like my wife and I. We have no denomination. We belong to Jesus, Yeshua Mashiach, in Hebrew, right? It's if you go under a denomination, you're already going on the set of rules and regulation of that particular denomination, so you cannot exercise your faith properly. Now, many people believe that their denomination is the better one, but I understand that once you have strings attached, you cannot be free. So my denomination is Yeshua Mashiach, which means Jesus is my boss. End of story. I don't have no pastor over me. I don't have no deacon. I recognize the authority given to a person through the Holy Spirit when the person comes to me, and I recognize the Holy Spirit given authority from that person. So the economy is under God the Father, God the Son, Holy Spirit, and then the believer. So when the Holy Spirit recognizes the Holy Spirit in the other person, you automatically, you have to be in touch with God. You can't just say, I'm going to church, like a happy clappy church, and it's fine and dandy, but you got to have faith. You got to walk with Jesus. And if you don't, you're whatever, The point is, you walk by faith, not by, you have to hear him. Faith comes by hearing. If you can't hear him, there's something wrong here. What I'm saying is,
don't worry. Well, there's a thing. I heard your interview with Dave, who I'm going to bring back in right now. I heard your interview with Dave. I genuinely understand and appreciate what you're saying, and I look at it more from not the objective sense. Hold on, get this dog up here. Not from the objective sense, but from the spiritual sense. I understand what you're saying. And first of all, I mean, if it does in fact allow people to go through the trials and tribulations that you're now going through, it's a wonderful thing, and no one should poo-poo that. So look, we're going to put the pinned comments up. The pinned comment is going to be the links to your respective social medias, where they can help you. The other Give, Send, Go for Jay. And let me just cover my tushy for the government. This is not an endorsement. Go and give it and at your own risks and perils, because Lord knows what happens when the government comes in and retroactively declares something not good and then freezes bank accounts. But
well, I can't imagine how giving to someone's legal fees could ever be illegal, so but who knows,
well, and retroactively, no less. But don't worry, he was going to respect the charter when he invoked the Emergencies Act.
Oh, of course, he's a very kind man.
Now let's see, Enrico, I hope you do have a place to worship with others, even if it is not affiliated with a denomination. I like that avatar. All right, people. So yes, so I think you just blew out everybody's ears there, Dave. I think the audio leveled out. Sorry about that.
You know,
everybody in the chat just went
to answer to that person, place of worship. Worship means obedience. How can you obey in a place? You have to obey during the day, minute by minute, second by second. When you come together with Christians, you don't have to be in that particular place or that place or that place. Like today, I was spending time with my friend Sam, and we stayed there an hour and a half. That's longer than the church service. Yesterday, I spent 2 hours with Dave. That's longer than a church service. And these are my brothers and sisters. We strengthen each other. We don't have to have somebody on top of us to tell us what to do. We have to do what the Holy Spirit does. Like I learned something from him, and I assume he learned something from what I said. But every time we come together in the Spirit of God, we grow. But if you go into the place of worship, what they call a place of worship, it's called place of obedience. It doesn't make sense. A place of gathering. You know, don't stop gathering together. Well, I don't stop gathering. I'm always seeing everybody. I'm always in touch with a lot. I have so many friends.
You're a great man, Enrico. Yeah? And I mentioned on my video when I interviewed you, just the peace that you've had about all this and just your positivity to keep moving forward is pretty amazing. So
yeah. So I like, for example, the Café was my gathering place. The Café was iconic. It was an image of the Most High God, and everybody that came in can testify there was an ambience in there, and that was the Holy Spirit. It was not me. It was not my friendliness. It was the Holy Spirit. God decided that way. He's trying to teach people to do not do the traditional thing that comes down from the Roman Catholic Church, passed down to the Protestant Church and or the Reformation Church and then the Protestant Church, but rather let's start the way God wants it to be. And in the book of Corinthians, very, very plain what he wants. Very, very, very plain.
Well, this might be well beyond the scope and wheelhouse of my channel. But Enrico, Dave, thank you very much, both of you, for doing this.
Just an update there, Enrico. You're up to about $8,000 just shy of. So people have been very generous. So thank you, Viva, and all your supporters and viewers. It's wonderful.
Wow.
Oh, and Pasha Moyer says, I agree with you. I'm not talking about a place, but the people. So don't worry. No one took that badly.
That's good. No, I was just, corrected. But anyways, it was a pleasure to see you again. I didn't know who you were, but once you talked about Dr. Christensen, another guy crazy like me, you were interviewing him, and then it was not long after he had to disappear because he was not really safe.
No, I had a live stream with Dr. Francis Christian. Sorry, and we had to do it exclusive to Rumble so we could actually discuss things meaningfully because YouTube doesn't like some subjects. But okay, but Enrico, I'm going to give you a few numbers after this. Dave, I'm sending you a link for Rumble so you can get your stuff up there and not have to worry about stuff. Gentlemen, I wish you nothing but the best. I think, hopefully the pendulum starts. I've been saying this. Hopefully the pendulum starts swinging back before the entire thing falls over or breaks, because we're getting to a point where if this keeps going in the direction it's going, things are going to break. So it better swing back sooner than later.
It's already crumbling.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Viva. And a fun little fact for your viewers, some of them probably remember that me and Viva first connected when we were just starting this whole shed thing, and he popped up on our stage and gave me a shout out and got us our first 1,000 subscribers. So this all came full circle.
I was in the shed. I saw those letters that the kids had written, and it was genuinely beautiful. Now I'm gonna have to go watch the moment you got arrested because I want to see you reading those things. But the gentlemen, we're gonna keep in touch. Enrico, I'm gonna give you some numbers so you're gonna call people. And everyone in the chat, thank you very much. Thank you for everything. And we'll see where this goes, people. Have faith and don't get blackpilled.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.